Very good morning to all. Today I am going to introduce one eminent professor. He's very special for me. Just I want to share something before introducing him. He is the professor. Around 17 years back, was put some confidence on his student. And he is the first person take me to academic field in 2004. And due to Professor Asim Ranjan Parida, I am here working as associate professor and head of the department in this Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Mizoram University. If you not have keep confidence on me to enter in academic field, then I may not have hold this position today. So it's my honor to introduce Professor Asim Ranjan Parida, Founder Director Manav Solutions India and UAE, a strategic human resource professional. Professor Asim Ranjan Parida has over 3 decades of combined experience in both academics and business organizations and has been especially active in the education, hospitality, and product service sectors. After completing his hospitality management degree from India with advanced professional certification from Cornell University, Ithaca, USA, Professor Parida joined the Oberoi Hotel Group in India. He moved to full-time teaching and continued to teach and mentor for 20 years in various capacities. During this long academic stint, he was actively engaged with hospitality organizations as a trainer, consultant, and presenter. He was also actively involved in community development projects on behalf of the government. Professor Parida helped set up the hospitality management faculty of hospitality management for Shiksha o Anusandhan deemed to be university and served as the director of the institute. In 2008, he moved to Dubai to join Landmark Group as a HR and training head before moving into the corporate HR role for the hospitality division of Landmark Group. In his most recent assignment, Professor Asim Ranjan Parida headed the HR functioning, serving close to 5,000 employees in multiple territories across the Middle East and India. Currently, he is the founder, director of Manav Solutions, a boutique HR consulting firm with offices in UAE and India, and is engaged in performance consulting, leadership development, coaching, and soft skill training for the service sector. His core skills lie around strategic management of employee relation, workforce planning and employment, career and leadership development, and organization culture. Very recently, he jointly developed a leadership development program with IIM Ahmedabad and co-hosted the program. He is deeply passionate about people and their potential contributions in building positive human societies. Professor Parida has a master's in hospitality and tourism management and a postgraduate diploma in human resource. He has been a ILO UNDP fellow, an alumnus of the PDP program from Cornell University, USA. He is a certified trainer and trainer jointly certified by Government of India and Thames Valley University, UK. He also holds a consulting certificate for training needs analysis, enabling him to engage in performance consulting in both India and abroad. In this spare time, Professor Parida dabbles in writing, poetry, and photography. Sir, it's my honor to hand over the session to you, sir. This is your turn, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Himanshu. You read out what I had given you, and perhaps it creates a kind of perception in the minds of people. But a few years back, I was very, very much in your position, and there's nothing special. Although as you tenure, as you gather more gray hair, experience builds up, and you know how to write a profile for for the host to introduce you. Having said that, let me just check. Am I audible to all of you? And those of
Yes,
you
sir.
who can just raise your hands. Am I audible? Very good. Uh, so I know you have gone through already 4 days. This is the fifth day, right? Of listening
Sir,
to distinguished speakers on entrepreneurship and how it relates to our industry, tourism and hospitality. My topic is trust areas in entrepreneurship for hospitality organizations. Just to grammatically more correct, trust areas for entrepreneurship in hospitality business. So, we are actually zeroing it down to hospitality trade, and we will see what kind of opportunities can be there for an entrepreneur. We will also look at how this topic relates to us. I mean, to all the faculty that are there. Initially, when Dr. Himanshu mentioned about this, I was wondering if this is for students. But then later I came to realize that it is for faculty, and it's part of the faculty development program, which is sponsored by AICT. So, welcome all of you to this session. I hope we will have some insightful, we have limitations in terms of discussions, but at least I will be able to guide you or direct you onto certain aspects of entrepreneurship in hospitality. We will also, answer questions at the end of the session. I'll leave about 10 minutes. Hopefully we'll be able to complete by then. And, but before I go into the session and my presentation, I would like to thank Dr. Himanshu, the university, the team which has been coordinating. And I must say that it has been stellar, the way it has been organized and the messaging that was done to ensure that people are on time, and the faculty and the presenters at least are there available. So thank you, Dr. Himanshu, and your team. For members that I do not know or that are working in the background, please convey my good wishes and gratitude. Right. Certain housekeeping. We will hope to have the phones on silent or on vibration, so that so that we can go on with the session without distraction. Now,
sir, just a minute. I want to mute all, then I will unmute you.
oh. Okay, so we are. I have a small presentation which will guide this discussion, and if it is not making sense, we will stop, and you can stop me. I do not know if that is a part of the process, but if you think that there is something which needs more clarification, we may not have to wait till the end. Right. So I'll just share my screen. Is the screen visible? Is the screen visible to all of you?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Right. So thrust areas for entrepreneurship and hospitality business. Now, we have been talking about entrepreneurship, I think, since the lockdown started in various parts of the country and even in regions like the Gulf. We have been hearing quite a bit of this word a lot more frequently, and sometimes it's a little scary. It appears as if entrepreneurship is the only way out of this pandemic, and if that is the only way that fortunes of people, economy, states, country will change. So we will see how robust that argument is. But let us proceed with the presentation. Now, you must have in the previous presentations by other speakers, you'd have heard about the definitions of entrepreneurship, what it means, the difference between different kind of entrepreneurship, what is a startup and is on a startup or entrepreneur venture. So we'll not go into that, into the definitions of this term. We have a couple of things that I would like you to look at when we are looking at the this particular slide. And as you can see, we are talking about thrust areas. We're talking about a very, very specific sector, and we are talking about a way to start a business in this particular sector. But while the sector can have many opportunities, we will only look at certain areas that perhaps have better opportunities or give us more assurances or is a little less risky. And the young girl that you see in the photograph is there for a purpose, because like I said in the beginning, that we may not necessarily conclude that entrepreneurship is the solution for everything. So you have amusing expression on the girl's face. Definitely it's a student, she's a student. And this is where I would like to create a distinction, because who are we making this presentation for? Who is the ultimate beneficiary of the knowledge sharing that has happened over the last 5 days? And I will request Dr. Himanshu to answer this.
Yes, sir.
So the question that I was asking Dr. Himanshu is, who is going to take advantage of this knowledge sharing that has happened over the last 5 days?
Sir, among our participants, mostly the teaching members of different institutes from tourism, hospitality and business management, and some scholars of research scholars and PG students are there.
Right.
Their number is very few.
Right. So when we are talking about entrepreneurship, we are not talking about the participants becoming entrepreneurs, right? Or are we?
Yes, sir. You are right, sir.
Okay. So in which case, this information that we are sharing here is ultimately going to shape some of our thought thinking, some of our approaches when we are at a job, and perhaps it is more suited for ultimately the students to develop a entrepreneurship temperament in our institutes and for students, if that is making sense. Right. So, okay. So, pre-pandemic, till about January 2020, we were all excited about a very, very special year. So 2020 was easy to pronounce. 2020 was quite, rhythmic. And we all thought that we are entering into an amazing year. Tourism and hospitality businesses had done a great job. It had really matured during the last couple of years. A lot of new concepts matured, and there was a lot of excitement in the industry. We were hoping that the first quarter into the new year of 2020 would be stellar in terms of its performance. But everything changed after the COVID-19 struck us. Now, some of the things that we had looked at when we were even when we were talking in 2019 or early 2020 about how the world is changing in HR circles, I remember we have been constantly talking about um, the world of work and how it is changing. We were talking about how technology is, overtaking many of the processes and many of the systems that we came to rely upon. We were looking at how jobs can be replaced by robots and all of that. And we used to call this, the whole thing was called, a very unique term was assigned, saying that we are now living in VUCA world, right? And I'm sure you must have heard of it, but I will show you a small presentation just to refresh and reinforce some of your knowledge. And on VUCA, VUCA stands for whatever. We will look at this video and hope it plays. I hope the video played well. And uh, now what was it showing is that we are living in a very, very uncertain world. Now you might call it volatile, ambiguous, complex, uncertain. But the gist of the matter is that today we are not in a position to actually, with kind of certainty look into the future, right? Things are changing so rapidly and so fast that it just becomes very difficult for us to predict anything. Earlier, I remember, when we had just entered the working world, we had been told that strategy is like 5 years, you know. Uh, Long-term strategy is 10 years. Today, long-term strategy is about 3 years, because beyond that, it just becomes very difficult for us to, um, you know, uh, forecast anything or estimate anything because of the pace of change. That's very, very fast. And second, it also comes from different directions. It's not linear anymore. One thing necessarily doesn't lead to another. There could be multiple things that are at play and that can impact or influence certain outcomes. So this was the situation. I think gradually we were preparing organizations for a VUCA world until we had a real-time live example of COVID. Now, when COVID hit, including governments of very, very advanced nations like USA and UK, they faltered. They did not know what to do, right? And this is a very good example, actually a good way to take stock of the times that we are living in. Therefore, when the topic talks about thrust areas in hospitality business, entrepreneurship in hospitality business, I am a little confused. Am I in a position, or, other experts, are we in a position to actually say these are the thrust areas? Because you do not know when things will move and how things will move. We can talk about certain trends. We can talk about certain indications, but we have to be prepared to make amendments, change ourselves, adapt as we move on or as we go. So let's, with that as a background, let's look at why are we talking about entrepreneurship. Okay, so the presentation will be based out of these three questions: why, and once we know what is the purpose, then we will talk about what, and then finally we'll talk about how. Now, why is very important, because we know that for anything that we do or that we plan or that we conceive, there has to be a motive, there has to be a big reason. And sometimes these purposes are much beyond what is visible to us, but with a little bit of prodding and questioning, we understand, why am I doing something? So why are we talking about entrepreneurship? Okay, we will take it for granted that we are talking about the industry, so I'll not continue to repeat that we are talking about hospitality business. But why entrepreneurship? Is it really necessary? What is wrong with going about, passing from our colleges, being extremely skilled and knowledgeable in our specializations, and finding jobs? Why should I take risks? Why should I become an entrepreneur? Why take the headache of doing a business? And when we are talking about, like, the context that we gave, in such a difficult, complex, uncertain, volatile, ambiguous world, why do I have to, kind of take that risk? Okay, now, if we have our answer as a positive yes, if we agree that yes, it is worth the risk, because the rewards are also very high, because we enjoy the excitement, we enjoy the uncertainty, and we will try to find our purpose or serve our purpose through this means of entrepreneurship, to start our own venture, to be my own boss. If those arguments are extremely powerful, then we move on to, okay, now that I have a good enough reason to get into entrepreneurship, to start my own venture or my business, what do I do? right? And once we have understood a bit of the trends, what are the areas that are opportunities, which is the thrust areas, or areas that seemingly at this point in time looks good, looks opportune, then we move on to the third question as to how do I do it. And while I'm talking to you, I'm also conscious that all of you are actually not very, I'll make that assumption. So the theme of entrepreneurship runs counter to what you are currently doing. So all of you are teaching, all of you have earned your PhD degrees, you are deep into research. Does that mean that you're not interested in entrepreneurship? Does that mean that as a professor, you have long abandoned the idea after you passed your graduation or your studies, and then you decided, no, I'll work, right? Or are we talking about our students, and should we look at inculcating a sense, orientation towards entrepreneurship in our students, because the future looks very bleak in terms of jobs, because the industry is changing, because the hotels which used to have 1:3 ratio employment in the ratio 1:3, 1 room to 3 employees, is now coming down to 1:0.3. Which means the large number of students that we are preparing, are they going to find placements? Are they going to find jobs in the areas that they have studied? So if we are talking about tourism and hospitality, are there enough jobs to absorb all the students that pass out? And as such, we have seen over the last 15, 20 years that hospitality students, because of the transferable skills, move on into industries that respect those skills, but they're not core to what they have studied. So what has been the leakage in terms of the effort and the resources that were invested in the student? If he just had good communication, joins a retail organization, then why did we spend so much of money in preparing him for his food production and his food and beverage services, housekeeping, etc., when he's not finding a sufficiently rewarding job in the industry that he's been prepared for? Now, these are questions. So as a professor, is it my responsibility? As a teacher, as an institution, is it our responsibility to also ensure that we guide our students onto a path of entrepreneurship for those who really want it? I think everybody who's done hotel management knew that by the time they completed first year, they thought that they will one day own a business, at least a restaurant or a housekeeping services. And then they abandoned that idea. Why? Because there was nobody to guide them. There was nobody to tell them that this is how things are done. And even if you ventured, you quickly realize that this is not your cup of tea, because you do not know where the funds come from. You do not know the legalities of starting a business. You do not know what kind of competitive advantages you can create and what is the process of doing that. So since all of this was not clear to people, people went through the off-beaten track, the regular process of applying for a job and finding a job. So we'll go with that assumption that whether we are, as participants in this particular session, whether we are interested in entrepreneurship or not, but we definitely can do something to ensure that our students will have the resources that can help them if they want to become an entrepreneur or start their own business. Fair enough? Now, if you look at this particular slide, and this is, I'm talking about the most recent time, we are talking about industry that has been almost ruined by the restrictions that has been imposed due to pandemic, due to this, and we are very helpless. We are very helpless because this huge industry, which used to contribute a very significant percentage to the GDP of every country, has suddenly, is in a limbo. They are, while other businesses have started to move a little up, hospitality is still helplessly waiting for some kind of a bailout from the government or some miracle to happen, and for example, the vaccine comes out and things go back to normal. And we still doubt, and a lot of experts now say that even if everything becomes normal, even if we have the vaccine ready, are we going to go back to our old times? What is going to change? So these are some of the paradigms that currently are shifting, right? And we do not know where it will stop. It would go in very different directions. If we look at these figures, 75 million jobs lost by, I think, May, and $2.1 trillion in revenues worldwide is what the industry has lost. So the backbone has become extremely weak of the industry. Now, if this is what is happening, then the question is, what are the other trends that we are talking about, which is going to further complicate or facilitate our approach towards entrepreneurship, right? So we are talking about millennials. Now, millennials are going to be the largest representation. They will have the largest representation in our in the industry, which means travel and tourism and hotel occupation, food and beverage consumption. That will be largely contributed by these millennials. And while we are talking about the millennials, we're talking about the other younger generations, which are also coming in with a completely different set of requirements or needs. So the question is our hotel ready, or is the industry ready to meet these diverse set of demands? So typically what we did is, I don't think much has changed in the way for the larger section of the industry, the way we do business. But going by some of these things, we may have to look at changing the way we have always done things. The reason why I'm putting up these trends here is because while we are discussing this, kindly make a note that these are also opportunities for entrepreneurship or a new way of doing things, right? The second point is technology. Now, there is a huge impact that, that technology is putting on our business. There was a time when we used to take a lot of pride in human-to-human interaction. Those days seems to be over, or even if it is there, it is for a very, very small market, which is of a generation that is dwindling very, very quickly. So technology is going to be quite pervasive in our industry. Why? Because the people who are our major customers, the millennials, and the adopters who may be a little older than them, are now very comfortable with technology. So we will have to factor that in when we are thinking of starting or putting up an enterprise of our own, or when we are advising our students to or encouraging them to put up a. And these are some of the trends that we need to keep in mind. Because the borders are closing down, at least this is what was happening before the pandemic. Now that there is travel restrictions, this may not at this point in time relevant, but eventually what will happen is international visitors will move more internationally. And we have to then see whether even the small destinations or remote destinations are equipped to handle international visitors. Would we want our visitors to adapt to ourselves, or we will adapt to their requirements or their needs? So this is something that we may have to look at. The next is increased emphasis on health and well-being. I think that is another trend. We do not know how long it will last, but going by some of the indications, it looks like there is a lot more importance that is now being given to health and well-being. So are our properties, whether it is our restaurant or the hotel or the resort or the Airbnb, are they equipped to offer, in their offering, are they capable of offering something that will be of interest to the guests on account of health and well-being? We're also talking about seamless technology. So while we spoke about technology, we are talking about technology which travels across various platforms. across various devices, across, so for basically what we are talking about, that if I have a handheld, if I have got a tablet, if I have got a mobile phone, can I do my stuff? Can I check in through my mobile phone? Can I open my room without having to depend upon a room key? Can my mobile phone itself open the door for me? Is there somebody who's going to welcome me when I'm in the room and does adjust the temperature or the lighting or the comfort of the stiffness of the bed, the firmness of the bed, etc., automatically? And if this is happening, then that is something that, so hotels or enterprises which will have this kind of technology or which will infuse this thing into their own processes will have a much larger uptake in terms of their customers' satisfaction. We are also talking about sustainability. So along with health, wellness, sustainability is also one of the softer things, but it is evident that our customers, the new generation, is very, very aware of any activity that we do in our properties or our facilities, which perhaps is pointing towards unsustainability, something that can leave a carbon footprint behind, that can leave garbage behind, that can pollute a few environmental resources. So people will be quite fond of those properties or those hotels or lodging establishments where they practice sustainability, right? The world is changing. We know that at least as far as my understanding goes in the HR domain, we are outsourcing a lot of our regular positions. So only the core operations remains in the hotel and everything else is outsourced. Housekeeping is outsourced, security is outsourced. And to add to that, technology also ensures that much of the things that was menial, that was done manually, is taken away. Now, while we are talking about this, I would just also want to point out that there is a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, etc., which will come to a little later. But they seem to be, our customers, our guests seem to be okay with those kind of things. So what happens to our people who we are preparing for jobs? How is that changing? Are we making them ready to work in environments like this, where there's a lot of tech adoption? Are they comfortable with that? Right? So these are big questions that we need to ask and perhaps, think about. With social media, we're talking about real-time damage creation. So if a person is unhappy, it doesn't take them time before they can go up and leave a negative feedback or give a suggestion. They can immediately go up onto n number of social media platforms and leave a comment, leave their their feedback. Now, if they are good, it's very good for the hotel. But if it is not good, then we have to have technology to control such kind of feedback on our social media platforms. Because what is happening is, even if you're today buying something, you're buying it on the basis of the feedback that people leave behind on the platforms. So if you're buying something from, let's say, Amazon, if you're going to a restaurant, you're looking at the Zomato scores, right? You're looking at what is the rating that the particular facility has got and that does swing your behavior, your purchase behavior. And then, of course, how can we make it more personalized? How can we find new ways to stay competitive? How can we make our customers enjoy or experience certain things that we uniquely provide them. So these are other things that are happening in many of the hotels. You do a little research, you will come to know of that. So I'm not going to the details of this, but all these 8-9 trends that we have seen are here to stay. So when we are talking about this, it is also important to note that these are also opportunities, right? So if you ask a student of hospitality management who's going to occupy a position in this industry, in the hospitality business or hospitality sector, typically he will say that I want to open my cloud kitchen. I want to have a restaurant. I have a catering establishment, right? I will have, I will train people. I'll provide some level of consultancy. These are very, very traditional. If I have got a lot of money and I know that my father is a rich person and he is willing to invest, I'll build a resort somewhere. We have talks where people are talking about, let me, create some experiences. So I will take our customers into hinterlands, into the remote corners, into giving them a very, very unique virgin experience of maybe a geography, scenic thing, or take them through something like manufacturing of handicraft and experience that. So these are typically how we think. But while you are looking at these trends, does it trigger other thoughts or other opportunities? And that is why we are talking about these trends. Now, if you have to become an entrepreneur, if you have to advise your students to become entrepreneurs, or if you have to encourage somebody who is creative, who is innovative, and who wants to take these risks and have his own venture, then please remember that there are, like the first video clip that we saw, there are many other forces in play. So if we are not aware of them, if we are not aware of how they can impact us, then we are going to be in a very difficult situation. So these trends can also, help us in guiding our students in trying to expand their thinking and their attitudes towards opportunities within the hospitality business. Mr. Dr. Debashish Sahu, I can see you. Am I audible and is it making sense? Am I going too fast?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. But Dr. Debashish cannot tell you, sir. He's muted.
Okay. All right. Okay, but Dr. Debashish can show a thumbs up or something to tell me that yes, he's in and he's not doing anything else there. All right.
There is another IHM alumnus. Madam Mausami is also there.
Yeah.
You can ask her.
Yeah. So good. So are we good so far? Because we are midway in the presentation, and yeah. So let's proceed then. So now coming to what? So when we were discussing about the why, we saw that there has to be a pressing need for somebody to venture into entrepreneurship. But like we know, some of these great inventions, the big organizations of recent times have all started with a small idea in a very, very modest manner, and they've grown big. So if people have dreams or aspirations of emulating or replicating such kind of organizations or ventures, then they definitely should consider all of that. Also, while we are talking about a why, I want you to be, to think about this, that many people, when I talk to them about entrepreneurship, many of them say that, the reason why I want to be an entrepreneur is because I need my freedom. People say that I need to make money. I want to retire early. I don't want to work under somebody. I want to be my own boss. Now, these are typical answers. But if we go into the various types of entrepreneurship, we also see that entrepreneurs can be driven or can be motivated for non-profit. Entrepreneurs can have a very, very strong cause which drives them. But all of these kinds of entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship results in one thing, that is adding value. So you're creating value. And depending upon how determined, how willing you are to create that value, you should take that jump. So when we are talking about what, we are assuming that we have a very strong purpose of getting into the journey of entrepreneurship. Okay, so typically, if you see, the reason when we started off, I said the world of work is changing. There are a lot of uncertainties around us. The trends are moving in various directions, and we are not able to actually, kind of create connections. There is no linear systems anymore. So if we are talking about getting into entrepreneurship because there is job erosion, there is erosion in skills because skills are changing very fast. The way we used to make beds or the way you used to serve food has changed. The way you used to package food has changed. The way people eat food has changed. So, therefore, we have to constantly update ourselves, ensure that we are, we possess new skills, we constantly upskill ourselves, cross-skill ourselves. And also there is an erosion in the resources that are available, whether it is financial resources, whether it is human resources, whether it is natural resources. There is gradually, with more and more consumption and a little bit of irresponsible usage, there is erosion of resources also. Now, are these good reasons for us to, kind of move on to onto an entrepreneurship journey? I'm not sure, but they definitely are triggers. They help us in getting into that decision-making mode. We also know that, the governments all around, states within our country also encourage a lot of entrepreneurship. There are startups, there are organizations that encourage startups. They help in funding. They provide some expertise. They do mentoring, and all of that is there. And if you have heard the Prime Minister very often speak about Startup India, Atmanirbhar India, Vocal for Local, that is all basically trying to push a section of our population into entrepreneurship journey. So it is not only earning profits of, adding value for yourself, but you're also helping in national development of the country. So these are big purposes. But if somebody asks, why should I do that? What is in it for me? Then the big question is, I have to feel that I have I have to be convinced that I have an idea. I'm willing to take risks, and I will be on this journey, and I will leave a legacy behind in the country, whether it is a profit, wealth legacy, or it is some other value that I will leave behind. So coming back to thrust areas, right? And here I have just picked up a few things, and this is from a secondary study on the internet. You'll get much more details about these things, but some of the things when I was doing this preparation also amused me, and it was quite exciting how the industry is moving. So one of the things is guest engagement. When we are talking about guest engagement, the reason why we are talking so much about guest engagement, and I will create that distinction between guest engagement and guest experience. When we are talking about guest engagement, we are talking about keeping the guest hooked to us, ensuring that we are always in touch with the customer. Gone are those days when we had a great experience when the customer was with us, and he remembered us 2 years later and still made a visit to our restaurant or our hotel. Those things are not happening anymore because there's so much of information. There are so many competing information that keeps coming in. There are so many samples that are being distributed. There are so many experiences that are being sampled that it is very easy for people to forget us, right? So how do we then create that connection with the guest? How do we engage with the customer, with the guest, so that he's able to keep us top of his mind and would want to continue doing his business with us? So there are some concepts here: wiki friend, uh, and Sabah Hospitality, Limendo. So these are some of those enterprises or ventures that are actually working in this area, right? Uh, I know one of our students from IHM Bhubaneswar, who is based out of Dubai. He, during COVID time, suddenly came out with a QR code for menus, online menus. So you don't have to touch menu cards anymore. You point your smartphone onto the QR code that is stuck onto the corner of the table, and then the whole menu opens up on your phone. And these are not very expensive to develop. They are actually easy, but they come out with a lot of benefit for the customer. Now, while you have gone in, or while the customer has taken a photograph, scanned the code, you actually are in his phone now, even though he's gone out from the restaurant. Now, what behaviors, what data can you study? What kind of engagements can you create with the customers will depend upon your ingenuity and how you think that level of engagement can continue, right? The second thing is about experience economy. Now, everybody talks about experience, right? Even when we are talking about a training program, we are talking about learning experience. It's become a buzzword now, and appropriately so. So here, when we are talking about hospitality business always took pride in providing a very unique and special personalized experience. But the need has become even more urgent now. And I think if you are not able to create an experience that can last at least for some time in the mind of our customers, our guests, then we have lost the guest. The second thing is about sustainability. We are also talking about our customers are like in the previous discussion, we were talking about how customers have become more and more aware about ecosystems, about pollution, about leaving behind a beautiful world for the next generation. So sustainability is going to be an important thing. So when we are planning our businesses, when we are looking at our own ideas, etc., we have to also ensure that that idea is sustainable. I'm not talking about feasibility. I'm talking about how that idea is able to protect what is less in terms of availability or in terms of resources. So, for example, here there is one Rebel meat, which actually is option for burger eaters or people who eat burgers who are not very, they're not vegetarian or non-vegetarian, they're flexitarians. And here what they do is that patty is not full meat. They put 50% mushroom and 50% meat, so that even though the flavor and the energy and the protein intake, everything stays the same, compensated to a very large extent by the other ingredient besides meat. It comes in for a convincing argument that we are concerned about our environment. Now, I have a friend in Gurgaon. They have come up. They're just starting up a new ready to cook bottled gravies. Right, they're currently looking for investments, but it's a wonderful product. They have got some very great feedback from blind tasting or sampling, and they're ready to go to market. And they have a very unique way of marketing. So they're not going to go to supermarkets and market. They have another very different way of marketing, which cuts cost and also comes out with a bit of testimonial by whoever is selling. Now, in this particular enterprise, they have decided that there will be nothing artificial, everything organic. Now, and going by the initial feedback, I have seen that a lot of people want to buy this and want to use it because somehow they feel that they have lived for the last 30, 40 years on manufactured artificial flavors and taste enhancers, and people now want to go back to nature. So sustainability is a big piece. We have to also look at retailing, and is there opportunities in retailing? Now what I mean by this is that hotels earlier used to have a shopping arcade, maybe a travel desk, or a car rental. But that is now taking a much bigger, so the total revenue that you're earning either through rentals of those premises that you are allowing retailers to occupy, or you are running those retail outlets yourself, including the spare capacity that you have in your industrial laundry. Can you retail that? So those kind of things are also looking like a trend or a thrust area. Big data, we have spoken about it. Robotics, now I am sure some of you may have already seen this little lady, the receptionist on my right on the screen. Now she's actually a robo, and she is a fully functional robo who can speak many languages. And she is an employee with Henna Hotel, Japan. And this is experimental at this stage, but they have got some very great reviews. So the entire hotel, including Flaizu Hotel in China, the entire hotel is run by robots. Zero intervention of humans, including order taking, check-in, check-out, room cleaning, all of that. Makershaker.com, if you can go up, it's a robotic bar where the barman is a robo, and they do amazing job in terms of preparing drinks for you. So these are some of the things that is currently happening. And when you're looking at all of these, you'll also realize that this, as an entrepreneur, where do I look for opportunities? So in the hospitality business, you have a value chain, right? From where the customers come, from where we procure items, and entire chain of activities that happens across the supply lines. You will find that there will be gaps there. You will find that there will be opportunities there. So it is not only about having restaurants or having a hotel, making a hotel, or getting into a business venture as far as hotels and restaurants are concerned. We can also look at, can I supply to hotels? Can I occupy a position in one of those long supply chains that hotels have? So these are all that. These are all pointing at that I may not own a hotel, I may not own a restaurant business or chain of restaurants, but I will provide to the restaurants. I will be their sort of value enhancer. Now, let's look at how. So it's all good to know why, and also come across certain ideas about what we can do, what are the opportunities. But the question is, how do I do it? And how do you do it as a faculty who on whom a lot of students depend upon direction about their future? You are kind of architects of their future or their careers. So how do you guide them? What will you do so that in your present roles you can ensure that your students are given the right kind of support? Okay, I'm looking from that perspective only as to how it will be relevant for you to go back to your institutions, to your classrooms, and then help people who may be interested in this entrepreneurship. So first of all, having an idea is not enough. It is all about execution. And a lot of these youngsters today come up with very, very, amazing ideas, very unique ideas. Each of these ideas has a potential of changing or bringing a lot of value into our societies, into our communities. But that is not enough. And many people, actually, if you look at our Indian way of studies, it's only now that it is picking up from a entrepreneurial temperament perspective. But eventually, all the while, it was a very, very knowledge orientated program in our curriculum, and it rarely gave that kind of a boost for people to try out, experiment, think freely, go beyond whatever is obvious, think out of the box. Those temperaments or those tenors was not developed. Uh, so if people had ideas, which they always had, the only thing is they just did not have the right kind of resources available. And today institutes should promise that. I know some of the institutes do have an incubation center. They are already in connection with, or they're already connected to various government and non-government agencies or they are connected to venture capitalists and angel funding agencies, etc., just to ensure that they can help their students to actually get on quickly with the journey. So a way of looking at it is, can institutes establish these kind of relationships for entrepreneurial development? And I'm sure we can. I know at least IHM Bhubaneswar has such a initiative, and they are doing pretty well. I am a part of the mentoring board, and we currently are looking at helping some 10 to 12 startups that have been registered as startups by the government of Orissa. And the institute's job is to ensure that they get the right kind of labs or the opportunities to test their ideas, build their prototypes, test those prototypes out, get feedback, refine the product, look at funding agencies, look at legal and other regulatory processes that can impact. And that is the level of advising or guidance that can be done. And I'm sure if IHM Bhubaneswar can do it, every other institute or university can also do it. And trust me, it's very, very, it is actually very encouraging when we talk about hospitality business, because we are dealing with two of the most basic needs of human beings, right? Food and shelter. So they are never going to go out of fashion or go out of market. It's only understanding how do we present those offerings so that as customer needs change, people start, or we adapt, and we are able to offer our customers, a product that is suitable to their requirements. Forge value-adding partnerships with industry leaders, thought professionals through association memberships. So this is again one thing that can be done. Now, if I have to, so I remember when I was a teacher in IHM Bhubaneswar, about how long back, I don't know, maybe late 1990s, early 2000. I realized that, and we went into a consulting mode. We took some projects of hospitals, catering division, some industrial canteens, and some state tourism centers and guest houses. And we realized that we were not giving anything new. We were only recycling what we knew and what was currently available. And while we were recycling it, we realized that things are changing, customers are changing, technology is developing. So how do I, as an institute, as an institution, or as a professor, or as a teacher, how am I going to ensure that I have that knowledge, or at least I know where to find that knowledge and transfer them to my students? And that is why it's very important to catalog information. You all are great researchers. You're doing a lot of research on the trends, but can we ensure that these are, is it on my side? Okay, we'll have to live with it till the caller gets bored, because it's not definitely my phone. So, So this is something that we need to do. We have to have updated current information and knowledge available to us when people are looking for it. Also, keep an eye for the students who demonstrate orientation or a leaning towards becoming entrepreneur. Try to look at people who come with great ideas, and we are, as a fraternity, as teachers, we are actually to be blamed to a very large extent because we snub a lot of ideas that we are not comfortable with right at the inception. When a person, when a student is very excited and talks about something, we said it doesn't work that way, and that is something that we have to get out of, so that people can think freely, and then they ensure that the resources are pooled to get that thing done. So this is primarily how we should approach that how part. I would like to kind of address through these kind of things at the institute. Now, if you want to look at a similar example, you have a case study, Hotel School, The Hague. They have a great incubation center called Entrepreneurship Hub, where they also give capital to students who come out with a great idea. So we can learn from these kind of examples that we have, and there are other examples where individuals or governments or non-governments actually tie up to ensure that people are encouraged to present their ideas and support them in giving them an office so that they don't have to work under the street lights. They get a proper kind of support in terms of literature, in terms of connections, technology, etc., so that they can continue to refine and mature on their ideas and ultimately bring it to life. So one of the hows is that as an institution, try and create an enabling ecosystem so that it helps jumpstart the entrepreneurial journey for your students. And this is how in the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem in this country, we can all do our bits. Okay, it's not only enough for the government to come up with certain schemes and ideas and imagine that things will happen on their own. At the very, very grassroots levels, these things have to be nurtured and developed and supported so that we all take advantage of the ecosystem. Also, how much time do I have now? Dr. Himanshu?
Yes,
How
sir.
much time do you have now, Dr. Himanshu?
Sir, only 5 minutes. You can finish by 11:15. Then we'll go for a question answer session, sir.
Okay. So you were saying 5 minutes, which is good because that is all I have time for. So, I urge you to very strongly look at this while you do your own development in terms of continuing to do research from the knowledge aspect, but also ensure that we are able to transfer that knowledge, convert them into wherever required skills and technology, and move on. While we come to the close, I would also try to encourage you to actually start getting friendly with technology, because if we have to have the hospitality business of tomorrow will be minus many people or many positions or many roles that we have seen, and all those things will be taken over by technology. So what we have to do is ensure that some of the offerings that we have, the business that we are in, is supported, or it coexists with technology. Gone are those days when we say, people are the only way to create value or create USPs. That is not true anymore, at least not in the front line. So we used to say that if you keep your employees happy, they keep your customers happy, and the customers keep coming back. Okay. The argument is if you keep your technology seamless and updated and modern, then your customers will keep coming back. Of course, they're behind those, all of those people are there. So I'm not undermining the importance of people, but just the roles start changing. So getting comfortable with technology is very, very important. And the other reason is because, most of the businesses, most of the ventures that has happened, even if it is in hospitality, even if it is in technology, even if it is in restaurants, even if it anything that is there in our own supply chain in the hospitality business has actually been started off by a tech entrepreneur. And that's the irony. So if somebody is making a robo who will serve food, or taking an automated or app which can take orders, or somebody like a Zomato, they are not people from hospitality industry, they're people from the tech industry. But they're getting into our spheres. And the reason why I think it's important for us to get into the technology sphere, or trying to be comfortable with that, is because it should actually originate from us. If it is anything to do with hospitality businesses, then it has to originate at our campuses, at our industries, and we take the support of the technology that is available in a very, very democratic manner. Nobody owns it now anymore. So that is the kind of thinking that we have to develop. And if you have to give more details to your students, or if you have to learn, there is this guidebook that is a part of Startup India's website. Enough and more information which can tell you about everything, about all the features, all the facilities that we have in the country, and even it connects industry experts to new ventures or to startup ideas, right? And so that then brings me to the end of my 5 minutes. Thank you very much. And I am ready to take.
Thank you, sir, for your informative and very insightful lecture. Now we'll go to the question answer session. But sir, though it's the second last session of the AICT Atal FDP, I want to declare some important information to the participants. As today we are going to close to make the end of the FDP. As per the AICT norm, you all participants will have to go for a test in afternoon session. The link for the Google test form will be posted in the chat box only. It will not be emailed to you. It will be posted in the chat box only. Those participants are regularly attending the classes, only they will get the chance to give the examination, not all. Because around 205 candidates were approved by us from our end to participate in this AICT FDP, but it is recorded that only 125 candidates are attending the program regularly. That's why I will request you all, in the last part of the FDP, you have to go for a test, and the link will be posted in the chat box. You have to click that link and you will get your question. Within 30 minutes, you have to submit the answer, and it will automatically come to us, and the result will be declared. So this is the important notification for you all today. And another one thing, by 2:30, you have to decide, you have to find out one area of research in entrepreneurship, and you have to write the area within 2 to 3 sentences, and that part will be included in that examination form, Google form. Just you have to write the area of research in that Google form. Yes, at sharp 2:30, we'll put the link in chat box. So, sir, we will go to the question answer session. There are a lot of compliments regarding your session. Uh, Excellent, very good, like this. But we will go to the question answer session. As Dr. Sujit Das, one of our participants, he has put question: what are the thrust areas for hospitality business in post COVID-19?
So, um, see, COVID is an aberration. Okay, it has come in and it will go. What damage it will do, how much time it will take to go away, those are all big questions. But certain things will not change, which means people will still travel. Now, a lot of people say that you're not going to travel anymore because you can do your conferences and meetings over Zoom. I do not fully agree to that. People will travel. It is a social need. It is something which which is a part of our DNA. People will travel. They'll find other ways and excuses to travel. So I don't think post-COVID things are not going to change. If we are looking at the macro issues or the macro conditions, then we should be worried about that. Post-COVID, pre-COVID will not make any difference, in terms of, so there will be a temporary adjustment that we will do. For example, now we are talking about touchless systems, right? So that can continue for some time, but it is pain. I mean, it's not comfortable for you to, not touch anything or being so scared and worried about it. So things will change. However, few things, I mean, if I just try to mute that post-COVID thing, because this has become more of a discussion point, pre-COVID, post-COVID, new normal and stuff like that. But basically, hotels will be there, rooms will be there, room sizes will change, decors might change, the way we book rooms might change, the duration of stay might change in properties. So those things can change, but definitely as a business, as an industry, as a sector, we'll continue to live. Now, so if you look at some of the trends that we spoke about, we spoke about guest experience, we spoke about guest engagement, we spoke about retailing, we spoke about sustainability. If you are looking at trust areas, then these are going to be influencing those areas. Now, do I have a name? May not be, because it has not been invented yet, or it has not come up yet. But that is how things are likely to take shape. Those trends will influence the way products and services are created and delivered. So if I have been able to answer your point, let's not get stuck with post-COVID, because post-COVID is going only to be 1 year or 2 years after the vaccine is over, to get back to our original growth or the optimism that we shared about the industry.
Thank you, sir. There is another question from Jisu Frederick. How the artificial intelligence system helps out in entrepreneurship in hospitality industries?
Okay, so let me reframe this question. So what we are saying is, how can we use artificial intelligence in within the hospitality business? Is that the right? Is that what you wanted to ask, Frederick?
Jisu Frederick.
Right. So, see, artificial intelligence is basically when we are talking about any system. That system has certain intelligence, right? If human beings are becoming part of a system, then our intelligence is what. So, for example, when I started my first job in Oberoi's used to take a lot of pride in customer service or in guest service. So I was in the front office, and while we were looking at receiving customers, in those days you receive customers through a specific set of steps, right? However, you still use certain intelligence. So now, if there is a newly married couple and they want a room, and they have just walked in, they don't have a reservation. The question is, where will you give the room? In front of the lift, in a corner, on the ground floor, on a top floor, in a remote corner of the hotel? Where will you give the room? This is something that this was decided by the intelligence of the person who was behind the desk, the receptionist in this case, or the front office assistant, right? So people with more intelligence could understand, or could appreciate the need, that unique need. A room is a room, but that unique need of that particular customer, and used to customize it for that specific customer. So if it's a honeymoon couple, then I will give them maybe towards the end of the corridor. They don't mind walking a little to the left, but they will enjoy that little bit of privacy and quiet. This is something, if people have been replaced by machines and by systems which are more automated, then this intelligence has to be infused into the person, into that particular system. So when we are talking about app, okay, and if you have been using that app, then you feed in a few details, and the app, through its own database, through the data that it has, and it has learned how to present that information, or how to utilize that information, will become intelligent. So when we are talking about all the systems in hotels, that automatically starts becoming, as it grows, as it matures, that particular piece of technology, as it matures, it starts becoming more and more intelligent, because the developers have created that kind of a system within it. So if I am going to a hotel, a very simple example, if I'm going to a hotel and I like a specific room, I like a specific temperature in my room, 24 degrees, humidity at this level, lighting at this level, I need specific toiletries, then this, nobody has to remember now, or it may not be available in one of our customers' personal data file. The system itself, the moment we punch his name, will automatically either borrow this information from other similar devices in a very seamless manner, or would have built its own system to say that if a person is of this background, this age, this kind of professional role he has, then perhaps this is what he might appreciate. So that is what we talk when we're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about things like that. It continues to get more and more intelligent with more and more usage and collection of data. So if you have this now, if you look at an application that you would like to develop for your own, one of the big ventures that you would like to create, you have to ensure that you have a system or an application or a piece of technology that will, over a period of time, become more and more intelligent. So if you go to Zomato and if you order from a specific restaurant, after 3 weeks, if you go to Zomato, that's the first restaurant that it will show on the street, because it knows that you like to order food from that restaurant. So why? It remembers your user preferences and then it suggests or gives you that. So that is how artificial intelligence can play a very significant role in supporting technology within the industry.
Thank you, sir. I want to take the last question. Actually, this question is asked by Sri Ranjan Menon, and the same question he had put yesterday, and today also he should get the chance, and his question must be answered, sir, by you, sir. Post COVID-19, when commercial international flights will start, how will India attract foreign influx of tourists?
So it will attract, or it will make an attempt to attract tourists in the same manner the way it used to do before. There's nothing which is going to change. This is because you're talking about post-COVID, right? Now, I will just want to, if you open any channel today, the first news is about COVID. The second news, depending upon which channel you're opening, the second news will be about Sushant Singh Rajput, although it has taken a backseat. The third news could be China, right? So when I am talking about my question is not about post-COVID. My question is, how is my industry, the airline and the hospitality business and the travel business going to live, thrive, right? That is the intent of that question. That is my concern. So even if COVID is gone, there could be other pressing issues in our larger system that can create a barrier to the influx of tourists as it used to happen before, pre-COVID. We have to be mindful for that. Now imagine a situation where COVID is gone and all geopolitical issues have been resolved and people have come out of the economic downturn that we have now taken. Our economy is going to contract very, very much by a very big margin. Now we have recovered from that because of certain stimulus, etc., etc. Then it will be back to normal. In fact, we can do much better. But for that, we have to wait. We have to see how things are going. Now people are talking about second wave of COVID. We do not know if there will be a third wave. Except China, I think everywhere else, we are seeing no signs of this pandemic becoming being in control. So we do not really know. But when COVID is gone and when other macro issues have been resolved, then we will be thriving much better. Because of certain other things also, the government is opening up the economy. The government is inviting a lot of, entrepreneurs or investors. States themselves, if you look at our own state, the states have also taken a lot of autonomy in starting their own, economic drives and initiatives. We become more connected. The American elections will tell who is the president and what kind of relationships we will have with them. So, it is not about COVID. If we are talking about our industry, then we have to be, mindful of n number of things. And that is the reason why I said in the beginning that we are living in a very uncertain times. But as far as the destination is concerned, if you're talking about visitors, and if we are innovating, like I have been in a few seminars where people are talking about innovating our product lines, we are getting into more of a gig economy. We're looking at placing or providing or offering our services and products in a much more easy and affordable manner. People will come. India is a beautiful country and it's got a huge opportunity for outsiders. So I don't see that as a problem. There could be a temporary setback, but we are all good.
Thank you, sir. I want to read one comment written by one of our participants, Dr. Smita S. Mahapatra. A guide and motivator like you will obviously take us to greater heights. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. Thank you for that.
And on behalf of the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, before thanking you, I will put my namaskar to you as my teacher, guide, philosopher, and so thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation to be a speaker in AICT Hotel FDP program. And on behalf of my Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Mizoram University, we will be grateful and will be obliged. And in future, we'll be in touch. We'll be seeking your guidance and cooperation for our department. Thank you, sir.